Hey out there, welcome to a new episode of LonsTV, the very last LonsTV of not just the year, but the decade. That's right, 2001 to 2010, a decade, the aughts. So we're seeing it out tonight in a couple hours. It's in about 5.5 hours right here in California. I am going to a New Year's Eve party, and we're going to dinner first, so I'm heading out to do that in a little bit. But I wanted to wrap up the year with kind of a look back at all the things I thought were the most interesting or biggest news stories of the year. Just do like a 2010 year in review for this final 2010 LonsTV. To start with, I'm going to collect all natural disasters together and group them as one, because I'm sure I'm going to forget at least one, and then you get like the person from that country in the comments below, like, how could you possibly forget about the Indonesian boll weevil attack of March of this year? And it's always like the one that you leave off the list is like the biggest one. That's the one where the most people died, and so you really look like a shithead, isolated American with tunnel vision who doesn't know anything about the rest of the world. So this is like all natural disasters of 2010 together, so I'm not forgetting any. The few that occur to me: Haiti earthquake, Chilean earthquake and tsunamis, Pakistani floods, Iceland volcanoes, Hurricane Earl, Burlesque with Christina Aguilera, more than you could really count, all grouped together, natural disasters of 2010. Moving on. Dead people of 2010. Let's also group that all together so I don't forget your personal favorite, and then you're in the comments below like, Rue McClanahan, dumbass! So here's the list that I found. Corey Haim, Elizabeth Edwards, Gary Coleman, Teena Marie, Leslie Nielsen, Tony Curtis, George Steinbrenner, Rue McClanahan, Dennis Hopper, Ronnie James Dio, Dixie Carter, John Forsythe, Peter Graves, Alexander McQueen, Senator Ted Stevens. I probably missed your favorite one, and for that I apologize, but if it wasn't Dixie Carter, you were wrong anyway, and I mentioned her. So there we go. Let's move it along, and now we're going to go chronological order through the year. January 10th, the Jay Leno show, the 10 p.m. version of Jay Leno show, was canceled. This, of course, set off the whole controversy between the fight between Leno and Conan, not Lennon, he was dead, about who was going to take over the Tonight Show, and should we move the Tonight Show back and give Jay Leno another spot. And what ended up happening is that Conan is now doing his same version of the Tonight Show, but on TBS after 6 straight hours of King of Queens reruns. So, but it's amazing that he's basically doing the same show. What's also amazing is that I bet old people who watched The Tonight Show, like, a lot of them didn't really even get what was going on. It was like hosted by one guy, and then hosted by another guy, and then hosted by the original guy. Like, they probably thought it was a guest host, or Jay was wearing a red wig to be, like, silly for that couple of months or something. Like, I think it's funny to think about how a lot of the Tonight Show viewers probably did not change at all during this era. It was like people who fell asleep with the NBC nightly news on, and then just like a different guy was talking at them as they, slept and thought about whatever they had to do the next day. January 27th, Steve Jobs showed off and announced the iPad at a big Apple press conference in San Francisco. Of course, as we all know, it didn't have a USB port and support Flash, so nobody bought one. So what a blunder for Steve, huh? I can't believe that didn't work out. On February 12th, the Winter Olympics began in Vancouver. I feel like there's too much pressure on cities now. Every 2 years, some city has, like, the whole world, like, watching them, and there's this minute-to-minute, like, we have to top all the other countries that did it, and it has to be, like, the most awesome, crazy Olympics ever, and, like, I feel like it's gonna give some city, like, a nervous breakdown at some point. Like, we'll get a call from Rio, like, the night before the Summer Games, like, hey, I think we're all, as a city, coming down with something, and we're just gonna have to, like, do this some other time. It's just not gonna work out. Like, that's gonna happen, because we're making too big of a thing about it now. February 24th, SeaWorld trainer Dawn Brancheau, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, was killed by a whale, and I'm sure that there was, like, some SeaWorld executives who had really wished at that point they hadn't tied the whole branding of the company to the killer whale. Like, Steve from marketing had said, hey, maybe let's use a walrus, and they were like, no, 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 we gotta have the killer whale, it's like the John Wayne Gacy of the deep, that's our mascot, and now they're stuck with this. Although I feel like that's already kind of blown over. I feel like people are going back to SeaWorld, and that whole incident, it was 10 months ago. It's gone and forgotten. I'm way behind already, I can tell. So March 23rd, Obama signed the Affordable Care Act, the big healthcare bill, into law. Thus far, an estimated 140,000 people sent to their death by death panels. Curse you, mandates! April 20th, the Deepwater Horizon oil platform exploded, spilling, I don't know, depending on who you listen to, it's tens of gallons of oil or millions. Like, it's all different no matter who you're reading, how much oil actually spilled, but a lot. I'm thinking they just heard 420 was the best day to smoke and misunderstood. Clearly, though, not all joking aside, to me this is like the biggest news story of the year, one of the biggest news stories of recent memory, and just such an amazing example of how helpless human beings really are, despite all of our technological prowess. Like, when it comes to the natural world, the universe, and the power of, like, the Earth, we have we're like, I think it's plugged up. I mean, we're, like, totally hopeless, and months are going by, and nobody's doing anything. Like, we need Kevin Costner to come save us. Like, that's how desperate that situation got. So I'm going to have to keep jumping ahead here because we are falling just way, way behind. And there's so much I want to talk about. So on April 23rd, Arizona passed their immigration law, which is essentially, when you get right down to it, it's an excuse for their local police to harass people who look Mexican. And then they were arguing like, oh, it's not racist. And it's like, what do you guys just hate good quality fish tacos? I mean, there's really no other good explanation for it. So that was baffling. May 23rd was the Lost finale, which we come to realize the whole show is like 5 seasons, and they don't really answer anything. And then they had the whole 6th season, which is really about untangling the mysteries of the 6th season. It has nothing to do with the other 5 seasons. It's like, who's this Japanese guy in this temple? Let's figure that out, huh? That's compelling. And it's amazing because it opened and it was so good at being like satisfying and like doing misdirection really well. And then all of a sudden it got so clunky at it. It'd be like seeing Penn and Teller open for like a kid's birthday party magician. Like, there's just this sudden drop off in ability. And June 11th, of course, the FIFA World Cup began in South Africa. Let's relive it for a moment, shall we? Great times, great times. June 27th, a kind of hot Russian spy was arrested, which is weird that Russia still has spies. I think they watch U.S. movies, and they got, like, peer pressured into still spying on us, because we still make movies like Salt, where it's like, look out for Russia, they're spying, and Russia was like, shit, they're expecting us to still spy. Like, it makes them look bad if they're not spying. On August 4th, a California judge struck down Prop 8, and then very recently in December, the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy was repealed. That's right, I put the 2 gay rights stories together to save time. I'll review something super feminine next week to make it up to you guys. What else do I want to talk about here? On August 31st, it was the end of combat operations in Iraq, but 50,000 U.S. troops remained there. Which is amazing, and it's really just felt like Obama was like, he wants to hang out with the hipper, newer, cooler wars. Like, Iraq is so, 7 years ago. Like, he wants to, let's start some new wars. Let's get into some new action. What else? Oh, October 13th, rescue efforts began for the Chilean miners who were trapped underground for 70 days. Managed to make it down there all of that time without, like, the Morlocks or the mole people getting to them. It's really an amazing story of survival. On November 2nd, of course, the U.S. had elections. We elected new senators and governors and representatives. To me, the highlight of the entire election was it really was a debate for a few days whether or not a certain candidate was a witch. That really sums up 2010 for me, that there actually was a political debate at one point about, she said she practiced witchcraft, but okay, she's not really a witch. The next thing, and actually the final thing here, 2 more things. On November 13th, Aung San Suu Kyi was released from house arrest, the Burmese activist. Aung, like the middle part of sound, San, with a long drawn-out sound, Suu, like a quick Sue, it's S-U-U, but it's Sue, like really quick, and then Chi, and I looked this up how to pronounce it, obviously, and the place I looked said it's a soft chi. And I don't know what that means, but I'm pretty sure with hot sauce, a little broth, and maybe some bean sprouts, it'd be delicious. If I hadn't messed up the word bean, that would have been funnier. And the last thing, November 28th, WikiLeaks released 250,000 American diplomatic cables. And then shortly after, on December 7th, Julian Assange, the founder of WikiLeaks, was arrested for an alleged sexual assault in Sweden. It's amazing to me, in the aftermath of this, how many Americans want the government to keep secrets from them. And I don't think it was always that way. And I'm not defending Assange or saying he's not a rapist or a sexual criminal and a terrible man. I don't know him, but I do think overall WikiLeaks is probably an important project, and we haven't heard the last of it. That's my 2010 review. I am almost out of time. Thanks everybody for watching and subscribing to LonsTV this year, and I will see you all in 2011.